Hello and welcome everybody to a beautiful evening edition of AB Sports Conversation. Anthony Carlo along with you tonight without the B, Benzino the hero, obviously a big part of this AB conversation, but tonight it's A alone and going into some sports talk to get you all set and going to wherever you're going. I assume you're on the way home. I assume that it's been a long day of work and that you have put in your time like I have today, because the traffic was indelibly ridiculous. I must be honest. The traffic, I cannot understand. I really have come to the point where when I take home the West Side Highway, when I'm coming from the city, I'm down there spending some time at CBS, and then I'm coming here to do my show. And the one thing that I cannot stand is the fact that when I get on the West Side Highway, it is a complete standstill. Talk about parking lot. Talk about being stuck. Obviously, absolutely not moving an inch. That's the West Side Highway of late for me, and it's been something that is really getting to me. It's getting under my skin now that I cannot take the Parkway home. I can't get on the West Side Highway and get, to the Henry Hudson and where I need to go without running into this problem of having this place always like a parking lot. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's frustrating me. It's making things very difficult. You put in a hard day's work, and the one thing that you want to do is get home. And the one thing that you don't want to do is have to have to sit in your car with your car running, your gas wasting in a parking lot. Folks, when I talk about this, I'm not talking about highway. I'm talking about parking lot on the highway. That's how bad the traffic has been. And you know what the kicker is? There's no apparent reason. There is no apparent reason why the traffic is so bad. And that's what gets to me, because you get to a certain area, right? You figure you're expecting to see, God forbid, an accident, God forbid, rubbernecking, someone who's off the road, side of the road, stuck, people looking. That's what you expect to see when you're in a parking lot type standstill, traffic jam on the highway. You know what I've been seeing recently when I'm coming home from CBS in the city for my internship? Absolutely nothing. I'm in this standstill, I'm in this parking lot on the highway, and then I get to the point where I expect to see what the holdup was the whole time that delayed me from getting back here to do my show, and I realize that there's nothing there. It was just complete congestion and overpopulation on the highway. It's annoying, folks. I'm sorry to be the Debbie Downer here. I'm sure everybody is listening to the show right now because they want to be uplifted. They want to be happy. They want to listen to somebody talk sports. That'll make them happy. Sports makes everybody happy. We all know that. But I'm sorry I had to begin this show with going into how frustrating it was sitting on the West Side Highway trying to get to the Henry Hudson in an absolute traffic jam. Well, as we approach the Final Four, which is one of the topics we'll be talking about on AB Conversation this evening, the Final Four. We'll get to some baseball. We'll get into some Chris Mullin at the helm now of the St. John's Red Storm in place of Steve Lavin. We got a bunch on tab tonight for you all. We know that it is a better night than it's been based on the weather. The weather is not as unbearable as it's been in the past. We're starting to sense that spring is a real thing. We're starting to sense that winter has not taken over and spring is been forgotten. We're actually being reminded on this 50-degree evening that spring is indeed around the corner. And what better way to kick off spring than talking some baseball? The New York Yankees opening day on April 6th. That's coming up. They'll be going up against the Toronto Blue Jays. Should be a fun one to watch. Not. I'm just kidding. It'll be fun for your Yankee fan to watch opening day. It always is. But honestly, for the sports fan right now, there's one thing and one thing only people will be concerned about in a couple of days, and that will be the Final Four competition. And of course, wrapping up the NCAA tournament, March Madness coming to a screeching halt. That'll all happen on Monday with the championship. And right now, a roadblock for the Kentucky Wildcats can be the Wisconsin Badgers. Now, will it be? That's the question we will ponder, ladies and gentlemen. Will the Kentucky Wildcats be stopped from their perfect season, the first since the 1976 Hoosiers were able to pull it off? And will the Wisconsin Badgers be the one team to do that? Or will they continue to move forward and get one game closer to being in the national championship and competing for that perfect season? We'll answer all of your questions tonight right here on AB Conversation. Let's get into it. Please tell me why. Somebody call up this radio station and tell me why the Kentucky Wildcats will be stopped. Tell me one reason why. Give me a reason. Break it down for me here. Explain to me why the Kentucky Wildcats will not be the perfect team that they've been all year long. Tell me with players like Willie Cauley-Stein and Towns and Tyus Jones and Justice Winslow. Tell me exactly where the hole is. Tell me where exactly the hole is to exploit. Tell me exactly where there is a soft spot to take advantage of. If you can tell me where that is, please come and do this show for me. Because I'll give you a couple of reasons why this team can be stopped. But if you can actually give me a legitimate reason, defining and backing up the reason why they completely and 100% will be stopped, then I'll let you come here on this show and do this show for me. But as of now, Kentucky's in a very good spot to go undefeated. Now, we have seen that they are not immortal. Now, that's a topsy-turvy topic because so far, based on records and stats this year, they are immortal. They haven't lost a game. They are perfect this season. But if you want to go into the other view of that whole little topic there of whether they're immortal or they're not, let's discuss the games that were close. The last one being Notre Dame. Not a very, very solid performance, particularly by Kentucky, to prove to you that they're immortal, because Notre Dame took them basically to the buzzer and made you doubt that Kentucky had what it'll take to win a national championship and go on undefeated this season. But when it was all said and done, guess who was on the top? Guess who was at the top, being able to write another W in the win column, being able to book away another win and pack their bags for Wisconsin? Kentucky, ladies and gentlemen. Kentucky, the Kentucky Wildcats, led by John Calipari, who couldn't look any more uncomfortable than he normally is in his sideline interviews. When I'm dissecting the whole John Calipari sideline reporter interview, you have to be honest here. What does he do when he comes into that sideline report? It's like, is he rushing? It looks like he's a guy who likes to talk. We know he's a great basketball mind. We know he likes to shed his insight on the game with the reporters, but it's like he cuts them off before they're even finished asking a question. And I think what it is when I'm dissecting and analyzing the whole John Calipari sideline reporter scheme is the fact that it's game time, it's Calipari in the middle of a basketball game. Tell me one coach who likes to be bothered with reporters' questions in the middle of a basketball game. That's the whole sideline reporter deal. That's their job. Ask questions as the game is going on. So I don't know if I could really be angry at John Calipari for cutting reporters off, because I certainly, if I'm out there, I want to get my question across, but you can't be angry at him for not letting you, because honestly, he's in the middle of a basketball game. He's in the middle of a perfect run here. He wants to get back to the locker room. If it's halftime, he wants to address his team. He wants to get right back to business and discuss how the team is going to come out in the second half. Now, the Wisconsin Badgers come into this game. Kentucky is 36-0. Now, they do have one of the best front courts in college basketball. And one philosophy on taking down the Kentucky Wildcats is to try and exploit the backcourt and shoot at a high percentage. Now, these are a couple of reasons why Wisconsin would win the game if they do. First of all, Frank Kaminsky has to have a big game. You got to have Frank having a big game. Now, they've been getting by without Frank having big games. And I don't believe when you get to the nitty-gritty and you're in the Final Four, and then if they're lucky enough to advance to the national championship, I don't believe you can buy your way through that anymore without Frank Kaminsky having a big game. I don't think it's a real big possibility that they'll win and continue moving forward without Frank Kaminsky contributing, stepping up into the big spotlight, stepping up onto the big stage, and capitalizing, coming through. Frank Kaminsky the big man for Wisconsin, especially a team like Kentucky who's got so much size in Towns and Willie Cauley-Stein. You need somebody to compete with them. You need somebody to step up and clog up that paint and battle for boards and get dirty and gritty and nasty under the basket and in the paint. Because if you don't, they're coming down like a freight train. Willie Cauley-Stein will throw it down like you haven't ever seen. They will put the ball back in the basket. They won't even give it a chance. The ball will barely clear the cylinder by the time Cauley-Stein's smashing hand is going down on top of that basket and putting the ball through the net. They won't give you a chance to dominate them on the boards and out-rebound them if you even, for a split second, give them a chance to breathe in there. You've got to be competition for this team in there, and you've got to be a battle for their backcourt. Because it's a tough front court that Kentucky runs, with, of course, a team that has these Harrison twins and will be tough to battle when you're going up against them. You have to try and control. You have to try and dominate the backcourt. You have to try and control the paint. Not even control, because really, as I was saying before, there are not many soft spots with Kentucky. They'll beat you one place or another. They can go many places to beat you. So when I'm talking about controlling something, basically what I mean is putting up a fight. And the Wisconsin Badgers need Frank Kaminsky to put up a fight in order to even have a shot at controlling the paint. And they will not. I'll put it that way. Frank Kaminsky or not, they will not. Whether he has a blowout game or not, whether he has a big game and Frank Kaminsky decides to show up, whether he does or not, that's not the question. He needs to show up for them to even put up a battle in the paint and play with the bigs of Kentucky. But if he doesn't, they'll absolutely get run out of the building. Now you say Sam Decker. Sam Decker's another pivotal piece that has to step up for Wisconsin in trying to get us to believe for a second that the Badgers can win this game and head off to the national championship. But another philosophy here is the unsung hero. Will it be somebody other than Frank Kaminsky or Sam Decker? Now, these are two big players, obviously, your big two for Wisconsin. They live and die with these guys, but, the thing is here, you have to eliminate the die part without them. If Sam Decker and Frank Kaminsky both get shut down, which will not happen, one or the other has a chance of getting shut down by Kentucky, but it'll be highly unlikely neither of them have big games. But it is imperative that I emphasize here that there has to be the unsung hero for Wisconsin if you want to take it to Kentucky in this game. If you want to edge out a win and upset the best team since the 1976 Hoosiers, you have to rely on, if it's not this guy, it's that guy. You have to rely on a supporting cast. You have to rely on that member who will come to the rescue if your big guy or guys like Decker and Kaminsky are being shut down. Now, both of them may not, and I said this, it's highly unlikely that both of them will get shut down the whole game. But if there are spurts where Kaminsky's being shut down by Kentucky and Decker maybe is carrying the team and then Decker's getting shut down by Kentucky, you're going to rely on one or the other. Whoever's not being shut down at the moment, try and step up. But to ensure and give Wisconsin a better chance at making sure they have a foot forward in winning this game is not to put all your marbles with Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker. A lot of teams succeed with a big two. It's the big ones that'll get you in trouble. When you rely on one player to carry the team, when that player gets shut down, just as we like to watch our beloved New York Knicks and Carmelo Anthony, the rest of the team can't do anything, and the team loses. If Frank Kaminsky gets shut down, which we've seen him get shut down in this NCAA tournament so far, what's special about Wisconsin is the fact that they don't lose, because it's been Sam Decker, or it has been Josh Gassier, or Bronson Keenog, or Trayvon Jackson, or Nigel Hayes. Josh Gassier. These guys play pivotal supporting roles on this team. Now, we talk about Hayes, the 6'7" sophomore. He's an example of somebody who may come out and fill that role of the unsung hero. Now, he in particular has had some big games this season, including a 25-point performance against Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament final. So somebody like Nigel Hayes can make you believe he'll be the unsung hero. And I'll tell you one thing, folks. Kentucky will not lose. Kentucky's going to win this game. They will go to the national championship, and they will compete for a national title. But we all love the underdog story. Don't tell me you don't, because, listen, Rocky's my favorite movie. Rocky by no means was the guy picked to win the fight. He was the guy that was expected to get stepped on. Now, Wisconsin comes into this game trying to convince us that their underdog story is going to be the one to win us over in this tournament. Because if Wisconsin can take down Kentucky, it'll be something to talk about, folks. And I'm telling you how they can. How they can is, number one, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist, a college basketball analyst, a sports talk show host, none of the above, to be able to decipher how they win this game. It's Frank Kaminsky. He needs to show up, and what I mean by show up is have a big game, drop 20, grab 12 to 15 boards, really show up. And what I'm talking about in terms of the Sam Decker-Frank Kaminsky duo is increase your likelihood and your probability that you'll win this game even more by making sure those are not the only two guys that steal the show. Or better yet, let everybody believe those are the two guys that'll steal the show, and have one of your supporting cast members step up like a Nigel Hayes or a Trayvon Jackson or anybody with the ability to be a riser and a shiner in this game, and you'll win the game, Wisconsin. You will. Because college basketball is not about the big name. It's about the guy who steps up in the big situation. Now, it can be about the big name. It definitely can be. But I'll tell you one thing, and this is what I mean by that whole philosophy there. When these players advance to the National Basketball Association, the guys who stepped up and stole the show in college basketball don't necessarily translate that into being the biggest name in the NBA. It's different. The power guys, of course the big names, the guys who have all the tools, all the abilities in college basketball, yes, they go on to have very healthy, successful NBA careers. But the guys like Shabazz Napier, the guys like Luke Hancock, those guys, they're not necessarily going to be the greatest NBA ball players. But you know what? They stepped up in the big moment in college ball, and they did it for their team. Nigel Hayes, I'm calling out to you. You dropped 25 against Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament. You do it again, you're going to give this team a good chance to win. So let's see. It'll be interesting to see. My money's on Kentucky because I'm challenging Wisconsin to prove me wrong. Bust my bracket because I have Kentucky in the national championship, and if you want to bust my bracket, Wisconsin, I'm inviting you. Go ahead. Be the Badgers. Badger Kentucky. Pick somebody out to be your unsung hero. Don't let it be Sam Decker and Frank Kaminsky stealing the show. Because if the attention is on them to steal the show and somebody else steps up, you're going to the national title, boys, and you've ended an historic run by one of the best teams in college basketball to ever be in college basketball. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back. We'll discuss a little bit of the rest of the tournament. We'll talk a little bit about the other two teams in this tournament. Of course, we cannot forget the other two teams playing in this tournament. If it is Duke and Kentucky in the national championship, you better get set for what will be a beauty of a national championship. You won't get more exciting than that, but listen to why I think the other team in the Duke-Michigan State game, yes, that is Michigan State, will win. You'll want to hang around to hear that one.